Check out today's work of fan art. It's a fate servant concept for Genghis Khan. It looks very authentic. Nice job, KB Vang. While magecraft can accomplish many things, there are phenomena that simply cannot be replicated through practice. This type of mystery broadly refers to what are called elementals, or high-level spiritual bodies. One of the most iconic elementals is a true ancestor, a vampiric race with powerful supernatural abilities. Though there also exists a lesser-known elemental similar in might to a true ancestor, without the same voracious thirst for blood. One such elemental is born early in the Age of Gods, long before mankind becomes dependent on advanced technology. While female, this elemental is only human in appearance, and is capable of living for thousands of years by feeding off the mana in her surrounding environment. While she may not require the blood of humans to survive, she is not one to refuse such nourishment. Due to it being a highly efficient source of energy, she occasionally indulges on sucking the blood of unsuspecting humans, and upon doing so, her eyes turn crimson. That said, it isn't until the year 200 BC that this elemental decides to mingle with humans, choosing to settle in China under the name Yu Miaoyi. During this time, Yu falls in love with a man named Xiang Yu, a warlord reigning over China through the fall of the Qin dynasty. She becomes his wife, referred to by others as Consort Yu, and embellished as Yu the Beauty. The period following the Qin dynasty's collapse is known as the Chu-Han Contention, during which Xian Yu commands the forces of Western Chu against his nemesis Liu Bang and command of Han forces. In these fights, Yu Miaoyi proves to be far more devoted than just any housewife, always remaining by her beloved's side, accompanying him on all of his battles. Sadly, her strength alone is not able to turn the tide of war, and in the Battle of Gaixia, Liu Bang's army besieges Xiang Yu. The Han army sings folk songs of Xiang Yu's homeland to falsely imply it had already conquered Chu. Their ploy succeeds, destroying the morale of Xiang Yu's guard, causing some to even flee their post. In the face of inevitable defeat, Xiang Yu sorrowfully sings his own song that becomes known as the Song of Gaixia. Joining him, Yu Miaoyi dances with her sword, singing along for another verse. History records that the two lovers commit suicide, ensuring Liu Bang's success at ushering in the Han dynasty as its emperor. In truth, however, Yu Miaoyi survives the ordeal and laments her husband's death while cursing humanity. For the following 800 years, she remains in China, choosing to hide her vampiric nature, hoping to someday reunite with her husband. She lives on for his sake, but simply cannot bring herself to accept humanity. It isn't until the year 500 AD that she meets another human worth confiding in. Gao Changgong, otherwise known as the Prince of Lanling, serves as a high-ranking general of the Northern Qi dynasty. Undesirably, he is born with a beautiful, effeminate face and body. His fair complexion clashes with his aspirations as a general, and to hide his appearance, he dons an intimidating mask when taking to the battlefield. Perhaps it is because he hides his true self that he is so welcoming to Yu Miaoyi. Even after learning that she is actually a vampiric, nigh immortal being, he does not hesitate in her presence, instead treating her with genuine kindness. Tragically, even this tranquility is temporary. When Lanling's cousin Gao Wei ascends as emperor, their familial bond is stained in paranoia. Despite Lanling's loyalty and skill as a general, Gao Wei fears losing the throne to assassination and decides to make the first move. Lanling often feigns illness exclusively to stay out of political matters, but that is not enough to subdue his cousin's suspicion. As a result, by imperial order, Lanling is killed from drinking poisonous wine. News of his death angers Yu Miaoyi, urging her to consider sinking those involved in a sea of their own blood. With her hatred for humanity rekindled, she lives on for yet another 2,000 years into the modern era. Ultimately, she wants to rid herself of human drama and live in peace. Because of this, she is persuaded when the mage Marisbury Animasphere tries to recruit her for his Chaldea security organization. While others might fear her power, Marisbury takes value in it, believing she would be a valuable asset in case Chaldea's ray-shift experiments proved too strenuous for frail human bodies. In exchange, Marisbury offers her a new identity and a home isolated from the rest of mankind. Confiding in his words, Yu accepts the offer and is introduced to Chaldea as an ordinary human named Hinako Akta. Her fabricated backstory lists her as a student of the Clock Tower's botany facility, and that she's working at Chaldea as a technician. In truth, however, her strength makes her a perfect master candidate for upcoming ray shifts, and she is placed in Chaldea's most promising group, Team A. Despite the acknowledgement, Hinako keeps to herself, hiding her vampiric identity behind a button-up coat, pigtails, brown eyes, and glasses that she uses for reading. This bookworm persona helps her avoid being the center of attention. To further hide her identity, Hinako refuses her scheduled medical exams, which Chaldea's physician Romani Archman takes with disappointment. Regardless, her future as a Chaldean master comes to an abrupt end when the mage Lev Liner sabotages the facility with bombs. Just as Hinako and the other members of Team A enter their coffins for ray shift, the explosion forces Romani to place them in cryostasis, with the intent of reviving them after saving humanity from incineration. Thus, the Grand Orders, the mission meant for Team A, is carried out by Chaldea's only surviving master, Ritsuka Fujimaru. While they fight for humanity's survival, the leader of Team A, Kirstario Odim, is awakened by a mysterious foreign god who proposes a plan to supplant the greater history of man. By following this alien god, the frozen masters of Team A are given a new purpose as cryptors, or guardians of 7 lost belts, timelines destined to be pruned by the universe for deviating too far from proper human history. As a result, when Chaldea finally has the chance to open the coffins, the members of Team A are nowhere to be found, and proper human history is converted into a pale wasteland. Parts of the Earth become connected to the lost belts by trees of emptiness. These connected timelines are in competition with each other to determine the optimal place for the alien god to manifest. Each of the lost belts is ruled over by a king, and the members of Team A are tasked with managing their timeline's growth alongside a servant of their own. In Hinako's case, she strongly wishes to summon a rider-class servant, but instead winds up summoning none other than her friend, the Prince of Lanling, as a saber. Her lost belt is based around China, deviating from proper human history in the year 210 BC. Its ruler, Qin Shi Huang, in search of an elixir of life, discovers the artificial body of Neja, and by studying it he finds a way to live on in his own artificial body. In this form, he conquers the entire world, declaring his new kingdom the Eternal Sin Empire. To protect the planet, he surrounds Earth with a defense system called the Great Wall, which he uses to observe humanity while keeping their level of technological prowess limited. For his army, Qin Shi Huang freezes various Chinese warriors to call upon them later. Despite Qin Shi Huang's desire to expand his empire, Hinako deems her lost belt unfit for the competition between herself and the other cryptors. Instead, she and Lanling try to maintain the status quo. Again, she wants no part in all the human drama, absolutely detesting interference from conspirators like Koyanskaya. Regardless, conflict is inevitable, as the remaining survivors of Chaldea continue to enter and dismantle the various lost belts they encounter. Sure enough, Chaldea invades her lost belt using their armored vehicle, the Shadow Border, disrupting the lost belt's supposed peace. Qin Shi Huang's reaction to Chaldea is inconsistent. At first, he orders Hinako and Lanling to attack Ritsuka's party. Da Vinci, who had known Hinako back in Chaldea, is taken aback by Hinako's seemingly newfound cruelty. She, no longer needing to blend in with humans, declares her hatred for them, treating Ritsuka and the rest of their crew as insects. Her confidence blinds her, however, and Lanling proves too weak to solo the fight, causing them to retreat. For their next encounter, Qin Shi Huang unfreezes Xiang Yu. Naturally, this is not the same man Hinako met thousands of years ago, but rather the version of him that manifested under the Lost Belt's deviated conditions. Rather than a human, he is an artificial centaur berserker Qin had made, based on Neja's wreckage. Despite the obvious difference, Hinako is still able to fight alongside a form of her beloved, and together they nearly destroy Chaldea. Qin, however, hoping to expand his technology further, inquires about Chaldea's Shadow Border and decides to hold off the attack. Irritated by this decision, Hinako launches a failed ambush on Ritsuka, earning Qin Shi Huang's wrath. To punish her disobedience, Shin asks Xiang Yu to crush the golden elixir in his chest, akin to smashing his own heart. Desperate not to lose her lover once more, Hinako begs for forgiveness, pledging her fealty. That night, Hinako tells Xiang Yu about the version she knows from proper human history, and how she chose this lost belt specifically to meet him. Their ceasefire against Chaldea remains, until Qin Shi Huang discovers that Ritsuka's party has been teaching the villages of his kingdom poetry. For violating his strict limits on the people's education, he reforms his assault on Chaldea. This leads Hinako into a more grueling battle against Ritsuka, where she incurs a devastating wound. Backed into a corner, she decides to restore her power as an elemental. Years of suppressing her powers has severely weakened her, and to bring it all back, she needs considerable energy. Thus, she drains the blood, the mana from her servant Lan Ling, declaring her true form as Yu Miaoyi once again. She discards her coat and human modesty, swapping them for a pair of flaming swords. In this state, she is deadly, capable of using her noble phantasm, Eternal Lament, the curse-blooded immortal's Song of Grief. With enough gathered energy, she can sacrifice her body as a cursed bomb that causes intense weather. The remaining energy then rebuilds her body, and this process can be repeated so long as she has access to more. With this truth in the open, Qin Shi Huang renegotiates with Yu. In exchange for defeating Chaldea under his command, he promises to grant her a place of isolation where she can be at peace with her husband. Initially, Hinako had hidden her Lost Belt's Tree of Emptiness, Mayal, fearing that Qin Shi Huang would abuse its power. Yet, when Chaldea successfully defeats him, he entrusts the future to them. Refusing this surrender, Xiang Yu attacks Ritsuka in a wounded state and dies. Yu Miaoyi, having to look upon her dead husband once again, becomes overwhelmed by grief and seeks revenge by allowing the tree Mayal to absorb her. The awakened tree emits cosmic radiation, and to stop it, Qin Shi Huang ultimately sides with Chaldea to destroy it. Their final battle causes Yu to be ejected from Mayal. As she lay dying, Qin tells her that if she allows herself into the throne of heroes as a servant, her power as an elemental may allow her to choose where she manifests. Essentially, by becoming a servant, she can once again meet her husband. She follows this advice and enters the throne of heroes after her death. In a twist of fate, however, after the Lost Belt is destroyed, Yu Miaoyi is summoned by none other than Ritsuka Fujimaru, the person she was just trying to kill, effectively her own killer. For someone who hates humanity, she has no emotional stake in helping Chaldea fight in the remaining Lost Belts. Still, she reluctantly decides to form a contract with them regardless. This proves beneficial, as it does indeed reunite her with Xiang Yu. Over the span of many events, Yu Miaoyi has gone from a master to a servant, surprisingly finding peace in the latter. As a heroic spirit, her being an elemental isn't particularly absurd. Technically speaking, none of Ritsuka's servants are human anymore, and she is able to fit in among them without being singled out. In addition, Ritsuka, having gone on their journey alongside such servants, does not fear her. With the exception of fighting to protect humanity, she finds Chaldea to be the peaceful escape she spent thousands of years yearning for. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy this channel, help me beat the algorithm by liking, commenting, and sharing the video, subscribing to OtakuDaiKun, and, most of all, smashing that notification bell so you don't miss out on all of my anime discussion, lore, or Let's Play content. If you want to support me directly, there are now 3 ways that all provide the same benefits. You can click Join here on YouTube, or join Patreon or Subscribestar for access to exclusive vids and early access. As always, celebrate your fandom.